All right, welcome in. Hail Varsity Postgame. Nebraska falls 24-6. The final at Minnesota. Friday night action. Austin Jacobsen, Ravi Lulla with you. Ravi's going to try to keep his composure as long as he can. It's not going to be long.
I'm super composed. I'm very composed. We
can do a volleyball show. You want to do a volleyball show?
We definitely didn't start like 4 minutes late because I had to get as many F-bombs out ahead of time as I could.
We are live from Hurrdat Sports headquarters. We are here hanging out in the Omaha Metro just outside of La Vista. We are trying to figure out what we just witnessed.
What in God's name just happened? Like, what just happened?
That's tough. Okay, so should we start? Let's let it out, right? Hold your hair back, lean over the toilet, and let it out. Because that's what it looked like today, right? This was drunk at a sorority party. This was bad all around. No part of that was good. There was no part of that felt good, looked good. This was hoodie gate all over again. This is Indiana. The scoreboard is not as bad.
It's not even Indiana. Indiana's actually good at football. Minnesota actually sucks. Like, that's the problem here. Minnesota's bad.
We asked so many people on Hurrdat Sports Live when he went out and into whatever.
The Minnesota people said they suck.
The Minnesota people were saying that Nebraska was going to win this game, should win this game. They said in every single facet capacity, Nebraska had the better position groups, the better individual talent, the better everything. And at the end of the day, you got PJ Fleck. And I don't have a response to what it was. When it was 7-6, it was frustrating. When it's 24-6 and 9 minutes of the third quarter clock bleeds away and the next immediate drive, Nebraska's offense can go 3 and out. When your very first offensive possession, when all week you've heard it's the Emmett Johnson revenge game, when all week you have been told it's going to be pound the rock, Dana knows to run the ball, all this good stuff. It turns out to be just a huge fart right in the skillet.
Can I just say, like, this isn't me being like, oh, it's Minnesota. Oh, it's whatever. Like, I've watched, I think, all but one Minnesota football game this year. Mm-hmm. This is not a very good football team. I'm not going to sugarcoat this for you. Like, I thought Maryland was pretty decent. I think Minnesota is the worst power conference team Nebraska has played so far. They're worse than Cincinnati. They're worse than Michigan. They're worse than Michigan State. And I think they're worse than Maryland. That's what's frustrating right now because I don't know what happened. This is not a good Minnesota team. We talked to multiple Minnesota people. We talked to Ryan Burns and we talked to, I believe his name is Mike Grimm, the play-by-play voice. Both of those guys are like, man, this team is rough here and here and here. And those exact places were the things that I saw on tape. And those exact places are the places where Nebraska got dominated today.
I thought, didn't PJ Fleck quit the run? Didn't he? He gave up on it? Wasn't that the last thing that we had heard today?
35 carries, 186 yards, 5.3 per. Darius Taylor absolutely ruined Nebraska. And that I could have maybe accepted. Like, I get Nebraska's run defense has struggled. Darius Taylor is actually a good back. Yep. Maybe they figured some things out on the offensive line. Here's the part that I can't get over. This is a bad Minnesota rush defense.
Yep.
They gave up 250 yards rushing to freaking Purdue. They've given up just about 200 yards rushing to every damn team they've played. And they 29 for 36. Now, even if you take away all of Dylan's nonsense, the 9 sacks, it's still 70 rushing yards.
Yep.
Total. So I'm sitting here and I go, okay, this is everything I believed about Minnesota. I still believe to be true. This isn't me making assumptions. I watched this team. I have watched this team all year. I think I've only missed on replay because I'm not going to pretend I can watch them live a lot because it's not a fun football team to watch. I think the only game I didn't watch was Northwestern State. I've watched this team play 6 football games now. They're not a very good football team. 23. They beat Nebraska by worse than they beat Buffalo. Purdue outgained them by 200 yards. Nebraska didn't crack 200 yards of total offense. Like, this was a dreadful, embarrassing performance, and I don't know what happened. Like, I don't have a good answer for you why a team that is genuinely not good on either side of the line This is not me being dismissive.
Yeah.
This is a Minnesota team that has not been good on either side of the line all year. The center of their offensive line, center guard center, has been dreadful. Their defensive line and their run defense has been terrible all year. And somehow Nebraska comes in here and makes them look like prime Michigan.
Yeah.
Like this is not an acceptable defeat. I'm not saying, listen, I know we don't like to take any losses and whatever. And there's a version of this game that Nebraska maybe loses where I don't feel like this. I don't feel good, right? But that I don't feel like this. Nebraska was dominated in every single facet of the game. The only thing that even went a little well was Archie punted it pretty well.
Yep.
That's it.
Thanks,
That's
Arch.
all of it.
All right, so I think I've gotten to the point of hearing why. That's what I've been sitting on since the start of the third quarter is, why do I feel this way? I don't know what it is. What have we heard all week from Rule, from players, from everything, outside of all the Penn State talk? And what were the graphics that were released by the Huskers today? What were all the motion pictures that were put out? It always started with the same word, fight. It was about fight. It was about effort. It was about how can we prepare to take the battle to them. There was no fight.
There was no battle.
There was nothing. There was a rolling over and showing your belly from the very beginning of the game. It was the offensive line that couldn't keep contained on outside pass rush. It was guys that looked like prime Jadeveon Clowney out there for Minnesota's defense that hadn't had a sack in 2 weeks and get 9 sacks in one game.
And here's the thing, like I'm not even like at least half the sacks are Dylan's fault. Like I'm just like at least half the sacks are Dylan's fault.
They have to be.
They have to be. No, like I was watching and I'm very acutely paying attention to these things now because of what the narratives have been. The offensive line played poorly. Okay, like let's not. But my concern with the offensive line was they couldn't get run blocking going, or they couldn't run block so that Nebraska actually run the football effectively. Because this is a bad Minnesota run defense. They're bad. They're a terrible Minnesota run defense. So the fact that Nebraska couldn't run the ball against them when they did against better run defenses, that's the thing that's making me mad right now. Because, listen, the pass pro is a totally different thing. And I get that. I get that Spindler went out early. I get that Pritchett went out early we
can get to that.
We'll get to the refs later, but like I'm so
the refs did not lose you the game today.
I'm so mad at Nebraska. I can't even get enough anger left over for the refs, which were also dreadful. Not why Nebraska lost, but when you're sitting there watching Nebraska get their head beat in, it's that little cherry on top of the sundae, that little cherry on top of the poop sandwich that says, oh yeah, we're also going to call a pass interference on 4th down and a pass interference on a dubious 3rd down. And we're going to eject your left tackle for finishing a block while the play was still going on a guy that was trying to get back up. Like, that's not why Nebraska lost the game. Nebraska probably loses the game anyway because they didn't show up. Like, I don't want to question heart. I don't want to question toughness. Nebraska didn't show up. I don't know if they forgot the game was Friday instead of Saturday, but they didn't show up tonight. And I don't know what to do with that. I don't know where to place the blame there, but Nebraska didn't show up. I don't think, like, coaching staff, players, any of it. I don't think anybody showed up to Minnesota this weekend. And I don't know, like, that's why this is so frustrating because I can't even point to a single thing outside of Archie where I'm like, okay, well, they did this and I can take this away from it and whatever, right? I've been incredibly positive about this team all year. Yep. And I think for good reason. This is one of those games that totally feels like it totally negates all of that. And I know that's not how it works. I know it's not how it works because that's how we felt against Indiana last year, even though Indiana's actually good. That's how we felt against UCLA last year, and UCLA wasn't that good. Like, so I know that's not how it works. You can bounce back and almost beat Ohio State and whatever, right? So I have no idea what's going to happen next week against Northwestern. I will say, if it looks like this against Northwestern, we're going to have to start answering some really tough questions about this football team because this was a horrendous effort.
Yeah.
Like, there's no other way around it. Like, there's no sugarcoating it. There's no positive spin. There's nothing I can come up with because I swear to God, like, I don't believe the receivers aren't getting open that frequently. I just don't believe that. Like, the entire tenets of what Dana Holgerson does as an offensive coordinator is getting guys open quickly. And then we saw it for little spurts, like right as soon as the second half started, they got the ball out quick a few times. And it was like, hey, Dylan, let's go. And then they try a long pass and they fall right back into their bad habits and they just can't figure anything out. I don't care what needs to happen. Somebody has to give me a good reason or change it to make this happen, because I don't believe the receivers aren't getting open that consistently. I don't believe the offensive line is playing that poorly. We have seen Dylan play really, really well. Like the game plan against Cincinnati and what we saw tonight look like two different human beings.
Yep.
I don't even know what to, like, that doesn't even look like the same guy. So unless he's injured and nobody's saying anything, like, I don't know what to even do with that, because they look like bizarro world versions of themselves. Cincinnati, Dylan Raiola probably wins this football game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I genuinely believe that. He took what was there. He made quick decisions and quick throws and took what the defense gave him and didn't just sit there and run around. Like, I was in the first quarter, there were two things that happened. Now I'm sitting next to my buddy and he goes, ooh, those are negative reinforcement plays, right? Where he scrambles around, and I swear I thought there was going to be a holding call on the offensive line, and he finds Lindemeyer down the middle.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was the first drive of the game. And listen, he got rewarded for what I thought was bad decision-making. He held the ball for way too long. And then the little flip to Isaiah, that was a quarter of an inch from being a pick six. He got rewarded for that one. And then he kept doing it all game. Like, you can't, it's like when you're watching a basketball game and a bad shooter makes a three early, right, and you're like, hell yeah, that guy's going to take those all night. That's what we saw from Dylan Knight. He made bad decisions early, got rewarded for them, and then couldn't get out of his own bad habits all night. Like, this looks like a totally different person from Cincinnati, to where that game plan, that decision-making probably wins them the game against Minnesota tonight. Now, you still have the issues on defense, but the offense was truly horrifying.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, and that's my side of it too. And I understand, like, a lot of the pointing and blaming can go and should go to the quarterback. But listen, I said it at the start. We heard all week, this is the Emmett Johnson revenge game. They talked about it. Oh, we're going to keep his cool head. You come out and you throw the ball 3 straight times to open the game. You don't even set the tone when you get a stop on the defensive side on the opening possession. Then you don't allow your offense to get in any sort of rhythm. They had 45 offensive plays before their final offensive drive, and 8 of those plays at the time were sacks. 17% of your offense in the fourth quarter with 7 minutes to go were sacks on your quarterback, because you never established anything. You never got anything moving. There was no rhythm. There was no sense of stability. There was no opportunity for individual players to go. And I'll give credit to Minnesota for this, because the entirety of that contest, all 60 minutes of it, as painful as it was for Nebraska, I got to tip my cap to Minnesota, because every single time you could tell their coaching staff spent the time to say, that's a weakness for Nebraska. That's a weakness for Nebraska. On all those third down conversions that Drake Lindsay just had to step back and watch a shallow cross come across his face, who was the corner on every single one of those crossing plays? At least it felt like
Donovan Jones.
And every time, who was trailing behind the receiver that would catch it behind the first down marker and run for a first down? Donovan Jones. And I don't want to single out just him, because there was also run fits that were bad.
Let's be clear. The secondary in general was horrifying tonight.
And there were linebackers that weren't getting off blocks that they clearly attacked and exposed. There were offensive linemen that they clearly went after and put stunts and different pressures and pressure grades at them, so that way they would get confused and not block anyone, and then an outside rusher would have a clean look at your quarterback. It happened everywhere. There were individuals that they had marked on that roster for Nebraska to say, this is a weak point. This is a weak point. Attack here. When we need a play, attack here. Nebraska never had that the entire game. There was not an opportunity where Nebraska was going after weak points of Minnesota. And like we said from the very beginning,
so many of
there
them.
were all weaknesses.
There were so many
you
of
were
them.
The strength of the program. You were the strength of the game at every facet going
they had
in.
So many weaknesses. Just pick one.
Yes.
Just pick one.
And they couldn't, and they did it.
They had corners out. Just pick one.
They were running coach plays every single time. They never went and attacked a weakness. They tried to play as vanilla, generic as they could, and they never went after anyone, especially when the game was on the line.
Just stick to it and beat them. Like that, like there was so many weaknesses, and that's why I started with this Minnesota team. I don't care what their record ends up being. I really don't for Minnesota. I've watched this team. This isn't a good football team.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way around that. That's why I started there, because Nebraska had every opportunity. They had every opportunity to pick a Minnesota weakness, whether it was the interior of their offensive line, whether it was their secondary that was banged up, whether it was their run defense that gotten gashed by God and everyone else in every football game this year. Like, there were so many things. Just pick one and win, right? That's what Minnesota did. They picked the thing that they could control, and they went after it like a dog on a bone, and they relentlessly beat Nebraska into submission. And it is so frustrating to sit here in a time that I thought was different. And maybe it is. Maybe tonight's a blip. Maybe it is. Maybe this is a speed bump. Maybe it's a blip on the radar. Maybe this isn't what it is. But it felt exactly like previous regimes where it's like, oh, like this is the game I thought Nebraska was past. Playing like this. I'm not saying losing. I'm saying playing like this against a clearly inferior opponent, against a team that was literally just waiting it out to have you make the mistakes.
Yeah,
And
that was a Frost loss if I've ever seen it.
Nebraska didn't have the big turnovers or anything like that, but they had the bad decision making. 9 sacks should count as like 2.5 turnovers, right? Like at the end of the day, in terms of impact on a game, 9 sacks feels like a couple turnovers.
Yeah.
Like, I get that it's not going to look that way.
What is it? Every time that there's a sack on a drive, your percentage to score goes to like, 7% or something like that? So, essentially you're punting every time
if you get sacked 9 times, then you're basically never going to score. And they basically never score.
Well, they didn't score an offensive touchdown.
They didn't have a touchdown. Like, they could not score. And so I sit here and I go, okay, this is the type of loss that I thought year 3 rule was passed. That's the frustrating thing about this, is it makes me question the progress that I thought was there. Because against Cincinnati, when everybody was clenching their sphincters and saying like, oh, here they're going to go down and score, Nebraska made a play to win the game, right? When everybody's clenching their sphincters against Michigan State and they take a lead at the end of the third quarter, Nebraska came back and made plays and won the game, kind of going away. When they're losing to Maryland and everybody's got clenched sphincters and they're like, oh no, here we go again, Nebraska came back and made a play. And all of those teams are better than Minnesota.
Yep.
Minnesota sucks, man. Like, I don't know how else to say it. They were bad. Mm-hmm. This is a bad football team.
The record does not emulate what the program actually is.
Look at those actual games. Like, I'm telling you, 23-10 to Buffalo. They lost to Cal. They should have lost to Purdue. This is a bad football team. Like, they're not Oregon State bad, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, this is not a good football team. And for Nebraska to come in here and not be able to self-correct, I'm not asking for perfect football. I'm really not. I don't expect that. I expect what I saw against Cincinnati and Michigan State and Maryland to be able to self-correct, to be able to turn momentum and make a play, especially when you're better. And Nebraska's better than Minnesota. Now, eventually, they're going to have to win a damn game against them to show that.
Yep.
But I don't know how you can watch these two teams' seasons across the first 6 games and not know that Nebraska is unequivocally better. Now, that guarantees you nothing, as we saw here tonight. But there's no way you can have watched each of these teams throughout the season and come away before this game thinking Minnesota was better. That's not a real thing.
Yep.
Like, Minnesota didn't believe that.
Nope.
Ryan Burns didn't believe it. Their play-by-play guy, Mike Grimm, didn't believe it. No one believed it, maybe except PJ Fleck and the people inside that room. And they probably deep down know they weren't better. They might have thought they could win anyway, but I bet they knew they weren't actually more talented.
But this is the perfect scenario where you throw out the phrase, well, they played 10 times. I don't know. Listen, if Nebraska showed up the way they did today, I don't know if Nebraska ever wins this game. Like, I don't know how many times they'd have to play for Nebraska to try to win this, unless you take all emotion and fight and everything out of it, and it's just generic, script players that are going out there and doing this on Madden. I don't understand where any of that energy came from. Where was the fight we saw at Maryland? Where was the second half speech that we got from Ja'Cory Barney at halftime? Where was any of that came out? It felt like this was just flat. Everything was flat. Nothing came out correctly. Everyone had a little less juice. Nobody had the amp to step up. Last week and this week leading in, I remember talking to you about, it feels like finally Nebraska has all of these different pieces of opportunities. I think we said it last week on the postgame show about talking about, wow, Nebraska's got so many players who can step up and make plays. Look at across the roster. Everyone wants to make a play. You're confident. You're confident. You're confident. And now it just turned into everyone, and you said it perfectly, sphincter tightened. And I can't even explain it in any other way other than, is it the number in front? Did we just forget who we were? What was it?
This is totally an us problem. Like, this is a Nebraska problem. Like, I want to make that very clear. And people are like, how can you say Nebraska's better than Minnesota? Because I've watched both of these teams all year.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I don't like to play I watch the games card, but sometimes you can't just look at the game that was happening in front of you, right? What I'm talking about is throughout the season, Minnesota's not been very good.
Yep.
Nebraska's been better than Minnesota. I've seen Nebraska beat teams better than Minnesota. That's what I'm talking about. Right?
And again, for all the reasons that everyone in this chat is like, oh, blah, 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 whatever, all this, whatever gripe you have, it is justified.
They're all right. They're all true.
For the first time in a long time, all the negative commentary is actually correct.
Yes, it's true and it's accurate, and there's no spin.
Yeah.
There's nothing. Like, there's nothing. This is a Nebraska problem, though. This isn't a Minnesota problem. This is a Nebraska problem. Yes, PJ Fleck had a good game plan. It shouldn't have mattered, right? Like, that's the point here. It shouldn't have mattered. Yep. Like, no game plan that Minnesota team that they could come up with the players that they have should have been able to beat a prepared and ready to go Nebraska team. That's what I'm talking about. Like, that's the thing I thought we were past. That's the thing, like, year one and year two, whatever happened in year one with the quarterbacks and the new coach and the new whatever, I get it. Last year, still have some holdovers from the previous regime, true freshman quarterback. I get it. This is the year we're supposed to be past this. This is the year it looked like we were past this. And now we're back here again. And that's not to say they can't get past it still. But to have this experience against this football team is incredibly frustrating because now everything feels like it's on the table, right? Now it's like, Northwestern's like 4-2.
Yeah.
I don't really know. They play UCLA tomorrow. This could be a 5-2 versus 5-2 Northwestern versus Nebraska team next week in Lincoln.
Yep.
Then how good are we feeling there? Right? I don't know.
This is almost a complete reevaluation loss.
Yeah.
Like, it is. And
like, DB's asked so many times over the course of the year, like, at what point can we stop having the existential crisis losses where it's like, hey, it's an indictment on everything here? And I thought we were past that. I really did.
Yeah.
This does feel like an indictment on what's been happening.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if it's an indictment on just what's happened this week. I don't know if it's an indictment on what's happened this year, but this does feel like an indictment.
And I don't want to get too philosophical or anything, but there's a part of this that is so psychologically damning as well. And just so that scar tissue we talk about so much for the past, decade plus of Nebraska football fandom and everything. And yes, I get it. The fandom's not owed anything, right? The players are the ones playing and all that stuff. We're just, emulations and emotions of that. But there's something about the fact that every piece of BS that Nebraska had to go through this week of, oh my God, our coach is leaving on Sunday night, that the odds are this, and Matt Rule didn't say exactly what we thought he was going to. Oh no, he went on McAfee and everything is fine and all this good stuff. And you had a national primetime spot to prove where the program was heading, to prove and almost listen, there's a scenario in the reverse complete, let me be clear, all the way opposite end of the parallel universe where Matt Rule is celebrating a huge victory over Minnesota tonight. He gets a big contract extension tomorrow morning, and everyone on College Game Day and Big Noon Kickoff is talking about why Matt Rule should be the coach at Penn State, but will stay at Nebraska. Instead, all the Penn State fans right now are going, no, do not need that. Because they watched what happened tonight with this program and this team. They don't want a coach that is going to lose to Minnesota and a team that has very much less valuable resources than Nebraska does, that has a less talented roster, that has less developed talent. And yet here they are doing it again. Nebraska puking all over themselves like we have begged them not to for years on years and years. And yet, like you said, once again, the loss that just churns your gut and keeps you up at night and somehow makes you question everything is back again. It was UCLA, it's Minnesota, and for whatever reason, they can't get out of their own way. Once their wheels just get stuck in a rut, they stay there and keep spinning. This time, I don't even know what happened. They drove off the cliff. That's what happened.
Yeah, I mean, you said that the fans aren't owed anything, and I disagree, honestly. Like, I'm all for like what Matt Rule talked about earlier this week about needing a $30, $40 million roster, stuff like that. But if that's what you're asking, then you kind of do owe it to the fans.
Good point.
Like, if you're and because that's where the money's coming from. Let's be real here. I get that there's a handful of big donors, but there's a lot of people that spend time and money and resources on a smaller level, whether it's giving to 1890, whether it's attending the practices held by 1890 and paying for their ticket and things like that. There's a lot of people that contribute in big and little ways to this program that, like, you kind of do owe it to them to show up better than this.
I mean, it was a Friday night tonight, right? I mean, everyone knows that. There were high school games that people chose to not watch or whatever, all that sort of stuff. Matt Rule, when his very first press conference, the very first things that he would say was that this is a state built on farmers, and I want people who work in the fields, work with their hands, to spend their hard-earned money to celebrate and help support our program. I don't know anybody who did any sort of work today that feels good about any sort of dollar amount that they would have put into that program from the effort that they saw today.
I mean, I'm just being frank here. Like, I'm pissed. Like, Miller North beat Central tonight. They still have a chance to go to the football playoff, which I didn't think was possible 2 weeks ago or three, like at any point during the season. And I sat here and watched this crap game instead. Like, yeah, I'm kind of mad. Like, that's part of it. I'm a big basketball fan. Creighton beat the hell out of number 16 Iowa State in an exhibition tonight. I would have rather watched that. Like this, and I get that's not necessarily what's important, but like, it does matter when you're asking people for something. And to be clear, I want Nebraska to get the things it needs to be a competitive football program. I want as a state for us to be able to provide that to them. But at the same time, this is a tough ask when this happens. Like, this wasn't a talent loss. This was an effort, execution, coaching loss. That's the part.
And that has nothing to do with dollars and cents.
Yes.
It has nothing to do with saunas and hot tubs and recovery pods and sleeping and anything else. It doesn't have anything to do with traveling your entire nutrition staff to the East Coast. It has nothing to do with that.
I'm pro. Yes. I'm pro all of that.
They could have longest yard this week, and if they had a better effort today, I would have felt better about it. But they didn't. They didn't practice in a prison yard. They practiced in one of the nicest facilities in the Big Ten, and they lost to a team that doesn't have the amount of money that they put into that one practice field.
That's the thing. That's why this is frustrating, because Minnesota is basically the opposite of Nebraska.
Yes.
They don't have the things. They don't have the nicest facility that a lot of recruits will tell you is the nicest facility in the country.
Yeah.
Right? They don't have the ability to travel all these people and to do all the things that Nebraska does, which, by the way, I'm pro all of those things. Nebraska should be preparing and acting like champions and preparing like champions before they're champions. I'm pro all those things. But what makes it frustrating is when you don't have the things that money can't buy. That's what, like, I want the things that money can't buy. I also want the things that money can buy, but there's things in the meantime that you can give me that don't cost anything. Not dollars and cents. They do cost something, but they don't cost any money. Minnesota has all the things that don't cost any money. And that's what is so hard to swallow right now. It's why we hate every freaking time we lose to Iowa and Minnesota, because they have the things that money can't buy. We have the things that money can buy. We are searching desperately for the things that money can't buy. And we see them right up close and personal in Minnesota and in Iowa. Those are the two worst ones. Those are the two most glaring ones, right? Right in our face. Resources wise, they don't have what we have. Yep. Money, facility, whatever. They don't have what we have, but they have the thing that we cannot buy. And I swear, if there was a price tag on it, we'd find a way.
Yep.
But in the meantime, you have to figure out a way to get that thing that money can't buy, because until you do, you will keep losing games to Minnesota and to Iowa. And we just saw it, by the way, in another game with Miami and Louisville.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Miami has all the roster that money can buy. They didn't have the thing that money couldn't buy. And Miami's had that for a while now, where they drop a couple games every year because of the things money can't buy. Listen, I would love to be in the position Miami is right now. where they're number 2 in the country and maybe they take 1 or 2 losses over the course of the last couple years. I would love to be in that position. But I believe the problem is the same.
Mm-hmm.
That right now, Miami and Mario Cristobal can't figure out how to acquire the thing that they can't purchase with a credit card. And Nebraska cannot figure out how to get anything that an Amex won't pay for. Like, I don't know what it is, and I don't know how to describe it, but I know that Minnesota and Iowa have something we don't. And until we find that thing and find a way to acquire it, we're going to have some of these still, and it's going to drive us crazy.
And I hate to be this type of person too, but it is super unfortunate for Matt Rule, because unlike last year, when you had a really bad loss that you couldn't really like shake off and everything, you then turned around and took a loss against one of the top teams in the country in Ohio State. And everyone could kind of wipe their hands and say, well, you know, you played pretty good. You don't have that for a while. Like you mentioned, you've got Northwestern at home in 8 days. Then you've got the biggest test. Well, I don't even know what to call it anymore, because listen, your goals of everything that you wanted to do, everything that we had talked about in the preseason, 10-2, I guess, is still available, all that good stuff, right? But a loss to Minnesota on the road is not going to bode well. Minnesota is not going to end up in any sort of categorical statistical anomaly that will grant you a good loss. So right off college football playoff, reassess where you want to be. Everyone go to bed tonight and reassess where you think that this program's best season can end up. If that's still 10-2, fantastic. But it's not going to be playing into those postseason games all the way going to try to play for a national title. What it will end up being is Nebraska's going to have to sit in this for a long time. You're sitting in a bath of very dirty water. All of it's brown around you. Everything's a mistake. Nothing looks good. The best thing you can do is rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, and rinse and repeat until that water becomes clear again. Because until then, you don't have anything else to accommodate for it, right? If you beat Northwestern 24-3 next week, people will still remember this. If you beat Northwestern, or if you beat USC at home and USC is ranked, or whatever the case is, they will still remember this. It is going to take you some time to build it back up. And I'll be damned, you better make sure you get it taken care of, because if you don't, everyone will point back to this more than they will ever look back to September 20th, because Michigan, far in the rearview mirror. Those issues are way back there. This is the main issue now, and it will be the main issue until it gets corrected somehow, some way down the line.
Here's the biggest problem is you can understand all of the things that happen against Michigan because it's Michigan.
Yes.
Like whatever Michigan's record ends up being, like, look at their talent composites, look at the players on that roster, look who ends up in the NFL from that team. You can look at it and go, yeah, okay, that's a good football team. You can understand how they can exploit some of the weaknesses of a very young Nebraska team. That's why that loss, while frustrating, like, doesn't get this type of reaction from me or from most people, I don't think. Also, it was a 3-point loss, not an 18-point loss that felt like an 80-point loss, right? Yep. Like, that's a very different experience here. And I sit here and I'm looking at the comments in our stream.
And I get it. Everyone in this chat wants to talk about, well, you know, is the defense better for this? Is it our personnel? Is it all this other stuff? Is it?
I don't think any of that matters.
Listen,
I don't think any of that.
I think number one is effort. Number 2 is motivation. Number 3 is everything else that comes after that. Like, I think it starts with those first 2, and then you can work your way after that. And I get it. Like, you can have those individual frustrations, but this isn't a game that Nebraska lost in one phase. Every single part of the game that they lost, except punting.
Literally only Archie played well.
They won punting. Like, congrats.
I literally only Archie played well. Like, I haven't rewatched it yet, obviously. I will be surprised if I have a different takeaway after however many rewatches I end up doing that anybody besides Archie played well.
You better have the puke bowl next to you.
This was, I mean, listen, you're talking about dirty bathwater. That ain't dirt. That's diarrhea, because that's what happened all over this.
I wanted to be kind, but
I didn't. There's nothing to be kind about.
Yep.
They pooped all over themselves. They pooped all over the field. They pooped all over the fan base. Like, that's all it is. Like, there's no other way around it. This was a crappy mess from start to finish. It just was. And there's no way to sit here and do anything else with it, because like, you can point to, well, they should have, like, the play calling needs to be this and the whatever. Like, fine. That all could be true. Yeah. This was a team that I didn't feel like showed up. And I hate being the effort guy, because I appreciate how hard this game is to play.
Right.
I never want to be like, oh, they don't have heart or they're too soft or anything like that. But there's a difference between physically being tough enough to play the game and mentally being tough enough to do your job.
Mm-hmm.
Mentally, I don't think they were tough enough today to do their job.
Yeah.
I don't think so. And so I start there because it doesn't matter what the play calls are or what the defense is. The play call isn't the reason that every time Minnesota would have somebody get hit, that they ended up 4 yards further down the field no matter what.
Yep.
That's not a play call. That's not a scheme issue.
Mm-hmm.
That is hey, I need guys to make a play. I need guys to make a tackle. I need guys to rally to the ball. That is not a scheme issue, right? It's not a scheme issue when Dylan doesn't throw the football. Maybe they need to call some plays that have some quicker developing routes or whatever, but at some point he's got to throw the damn ball.
Yep.
Okay? It's not a scheme issue when we're sitting there and it seems like the extra blockers, so your tight ends, your running backs, whoever, gets confused and doesn't know who to block. That's a communication issue. That's not a scheme issue, right? It's not a scheme issue when, I don't know how many times in this game the first Nebraska defender brought down the Minnesota ball carrier. It wasn't very many. They would get hit and then boom, they'd go, and then it would take 2 or 3 or 4 more guys to bring down Taylor or Lindsey or whoever it was, right? Over and over and over again.
I don't have the stat perfectly right now, but I know that midway through the end of the third quarter, the average yards to go for Minnesota on third down was around 3.
Yeah.
Nebraska's was 13.
Yeah. I mean, that's
crazy.
That's all of it right there.
That is crazy.
Right? And very easily, listen, 3rd and 3 is very manageable. Very easily could have been 3rd and 6 if you're just getting the guy to the ground.
Yep.
Right? It's not like I went back on the not the touchdown, the 70, 68 yard, whatever run it was before where he stepped out of bounds at the 1. I'm literally watching this game at a bar. I bring up my phone so I can see what happened. When you look at what the play looked like when he's still behind the line of scrimmage, it looked like he shouldn't have gotten any yardage. Maybe 2 or 3. And somehow he gets through and goes and almost scores a 70-yard touchdown. That's not a scheme thing. When everybody is in the right spots or sort of starting to be in the right spots initially, and then guys are late filling from the 2nd and 3rd level. Guys are taking bad angles on tackles. Guys are diving at feet and not taking on ball carriers. Whatever it is, that is not a scheme issue.
Yep.
So were the schemes perfect? No. I'm not going to pretend like I wish that they were more consistent running the football early because Minnesota's a bad rush defense. Stick with that, pound it at them, figure it out, right? That's a decision they could have made and I would argue should have made. But if you're going and you're saying nothing changes scheme-wise, there's a version of this game if Nebraska is able to be mentally tough enough to do their jobs that they were asked to do, where this is at least a ball game. Mm-hmm. And what we saw played out was not a ball game. It just wasn't.
Yeah. And there's just so many added layers to this too. It feels like it almost feels personal because we felt like we got to know this team and know what they were actually turning into, right? Because we had the Maryland game the week before and we had the Michigan State game when they pulled themselves out of their own garbage and they were able to figure themselves out. And yeah, they had responded, I thought, well enough from the Michigan game. We thought they had kind of that marquee matchup, the bright lights, somewhat figured out. Yeah, they hadn't gotten the ranked win yet that we were wanting to, but it felt like it was still going in the right direction based off of what we saw. I know what we agreed, right? Mm-hmm. Most of the chat's not going to feel that way right now, but where we were after that Michigan game, I thought we were pretty positive, you and I, about that. But this just feels like we don't have any idea of what this team really is now.
And now I don't know what to expect. I don't know what to expect.
I feel almost like lost and delusional. It's like my longtime significant other just like broke up with me out of the blue. Like I don't have any way to explain it. Like last night we went out to a nice dinner. Tonight I don't know where she is. It's like that. It's that sort of feeling. I don't know where to move on from here. And maybe you wake up tomorrow and you rewatch the game and all that sort of stuff and we look at it differently. But I don't know. This is one of the first times that I've watched a Matt Rule, at least definitely this season, for the first time, but I can't think of the past few seasons where I just have come out of a game just not knowing what this team is anymore.
Yeah, like I part of what is bothering me so much is like I don't even know what to expect next week against Northwestern. Like I have no idea. I have no idea what to expect now. I thought up until this point in the season, I had a pretty good idea of what I could expect, right? I look at last week and I go, okay, if Nebraska doesn't end up -3 in turnovers, that game played out almost exactly how I expected. Michigan State played out almost exactly how I expected it to. Even Michigan, minus the inability to lock down 3 explosive runs, but that was the thing that was going to beat Nebraska against Michigan if they got beat, and it did, right? Almost every one of these games has played out exactly how I thought it was going to. This one was not even close, not even in the ballpark, even if it had resulted in a loss, was not even in the ballpark of how I thought this was going to play out for each team.
Yep.
And now I have no idea what to expect for the rest of the season. I have no idea. They've thrown a complete wrench into this. That's a very unsettling feeling. And maybe that doesn't matter. Maybe me feeling unsettled about what happened against Northwestern doesn't matter. But guess what? If I feel unsettled and you feel unsettled and we just saw what we witnessed, there's a chance that in the locker room, they don't really know what to expect either. And that's the concerning part. Like, I really don't know how, if you're Nebraska, you can play the way you did for the first 6 weeks of the season and then play the way you did tonight and have any sort of confidence about what that's going to look like next week. And that's the scary part. That's the scary part of this, because this doesn't feel like a normal loss. I can deal with normal losses. I get frustrated with people.
I agree.
I get frustrated with people that can't deal with normal losses. I don't expect this team to go undefeated. Nobody did, right? Even me, who is the most optimistic person about this team at 10-2, that's still not undefeated, famously.
Yeah.
Like, there's a couple losses on that record. Shafe brought it up after the loss to Michigan. He's like, almost everybody thought this team was 9-3 or 8-4. So you have to lose 3 or 4 games in order for that to happen. This is not a game that makes any sense.
Yeah.
That's where it becomes unsettling, where you go, okay, now I don't even know if what I saw the first 6 weeks was real. That's the part that makes this challenging and makes it frustrating and makes it difficult.
All right, let's take a deep breath. Hail Varsity Postgame, Hurrdat Sports and Hail Varsity. If you're looking for more, you can always check it out on the YouTube pages. We will have podcast up afterwards. If you've missed any part of this and you just want to vent, if you want to rant, if you're going on a late night walk, I don't blame you. Take the dog out, just walk around the neighborhood, do what you need to do, scream into the ether. You can listen to us. We'll have the post game full up once the show goes final as well. Nebraska falls 24-6. They are now 5-2 on the season and 2-2 in Big Ten play as well. Ravi, let's get more angry. But let's obviously, the anger is pointed towards what we've talked about so far, right? But these plays did not lose the game. The Elijah Pritchett call was one of the most egregious targeting calls I've ever seen in college football or football, bar none. I mean, I texted you real time that I could not understand as to what they were talking about, and the complete buffoonery that happened in that broadcast booth as well, agreeing with that call from the top of Mike Pereira all the way down to Tim Brando and Devin Garnett. That was insane. It was absolutely crazy to hear everyone in agreement saying that's definitely targeting. At what point has been finishing a block on a downfield play ever been not a part of football? That has been what is taught in the lowest levels of football. Was it not? Am I crazy?
On a guy that was trying to get up to pursue the play. Like,
finish the play.
He's trying to get back up. That's why he went back after him. He didn't jump on him.
No.
He was trying to finish the block because the guy was trying to get back up. Because the play was still live, by the way.
Yes.
The play was still live. Again, not why they lost the game, but a really infuriating thing. And guess what? When you give up 9 sacks, your starting left tackle being out is a factor.
Right.
Like, I know people have been frustrated with Pritchett for a while, but like, he's the best option there. He is. So to have him ejected in the first half is a real problem. Like, I don't know what to tell you. That's maybe, like, if you want to say, hey, that's unnecessary roughness, I still disagree.
Yeah, I would too.
But definitely not an ejectable call.
Right.
Like, I don't understand anybody who sees that. You're out of your mind.
And again, I want to be very clear because Matthew in chat's trying to, like, the people are just trying to kind of gripe us up, all that sort of stuff.
We spent 45 minutes telling you it wasn't about the refs, all right?
I don't even, you know what?
Chill.
I wanted to give give the moment and just air out a couple other grievances because they're going to come up later when everyone remembers it and you're hosting a show with Damon next week and everyone's going to try to chirp and get you guys all upset like we are right now. Now let's be upset. Now let's get it all out, right? But no, you guys want to focus on the fact that we're bringing up something to talk about. What else do you want us to talk about? We can keep going about in circles, but yes, Nebraska lost the game in every moment. Small, big, little, every single aspect of the game, they lost the game. There wasn't a single call that didn't go for them. Yeah, the holding call that should have been on Donovan Jones at the end of the game probably should have been called on the receiver blocking downfield on the screen that led to a touchdown. Probably, but was it? No.
Yeah,
but
that's 100% a hold. I mean, it's 100% a hold.
But let me be very clear. Nebraska wasn't going to win the game.
No, because they played poorly in every single facet of the game.
In fact, if that penalty was called, I don't doubt in my heart of hearts from what I have seen today,
they probably would have scored anyway.
They would have scored anyway. It just would have put less time on the clock for Nebraska.
Which maybe it wouldn't have been, maybe it's 21-6 instead of 24-6 because they don't have the time for the extra field goal. But like, I don't understand. Like, I don't understand where you can't even have the discussion that like it can be like Nebraska could have lost anyway, and the officiating can still have been poor, right? Like both of those things can be true.
Yep.
And let's not pretend like your starting left tackle being out isn't a factor.
Yep.
Like, what are we talking? I get you're mad. I'm more mad than anybody.
But if nothing else, this is another part of it too, that regardless if it was a penalty or not, or whatever the call was, they're cascading emotional moments in the game, right?
Yeah.
Because Nebraska's not playing well, their offense is not up to snuff, and they don't get a third down conversion. Then they have their left tackle ejected from the game on a questionable targeting call. Nebraska never picked themselves up from their bootstraps in that moment. It wasn't a rallying cry to be like, hey, you know what? If we're going to have to play the refs too, we're going to have to play the refs as well. We're just going to have to beat everyone outright here in Minneapolis tonight. They never did it. They never had the moment to be able to have the rallying cry, to be able to try to lift the flag back up to the top of the pole. They never got there in any facet of this contest. Nothing brought the team in and circled the wagons back in. It always was from everything that they did against Maryland, when they were having multiple individual players step up and make individual plays to keep Nebraska in that game. This was the exact opposite. Not one player stepped up to make individual plays to say, listen, if no one else is going to do it, I'll take care of it. I don't know who was out there to do it.
Yeah, that's the thing that I keep coming back to, right? In these other games, whether it's Cincinnati or Michigan State or Maryland, at some point Nebraska says, hey, this has to stop here. We have to make a play. At no point did anyone step up and make a play to change the momentum. It just felt like they kept waiting for something good to happen. And I don't know if that's what they were thinking or not. That's what it felt like while watching it. Whereas, and every time so here's the part that got frustrating, is every time it seemed like they got close to making a play that could change the direction of the game, whether it was for briefly, we thought Andrew Marshall may have had an interception. That ball hit the ground anyway on the hold, pass interference, whatever other call it was. Like, every time it seemed like Nebraska was about to make a play. Hey, there's a fourth down. They get a stop. Oh, all of a sudden you have a defensive hold. Like, every time Nebraska felt like they were about to make the play to change the game, there was something else that happened, whether it was the officiating or something else that basically reversed that. And listen, if you're Nebraska, you have to go make another play then, right? That's the point. You have to go make another play, but that's also still a factor with how things played out. Like, that's just not, you can't just dismiss that like it wasn't a thing. This was a 7-6 game at halftime. It wasn't 24-6 at halftime. Like, Nebraska was still very much in this for 2/3 of the game, right? Like 2/3 of the game. Dan Coyote says the defense played fine in the first half. I'm sticking to it. The offense not showing up caused the defense to run out of gas. The offense never showed up, and eventually the defense can't keep up.
And you know what, Dank?
That's a fair point.
Man, Dank, I hate the fact that he's always kind of even keel like that, but he is somewhat true. I mean, they kept the game at 7-6 when Nebraska's offense was looking more putrid than ever.
I mean, and DB brought it up on the broadcast. I was listening a little bit where he said, hey, giving up the 330 yards against Minnesota is not great. You don't feel good about that. He's like, the thing I'm really concerned about is what the offense looked like and what they need to figure out what they're trying to do. And they do. That's 100%. They have to figure out what they're trying to do offensively.
Yeah.
Like, find some bread and butter, find some things that you can hang your hat on and hang your identity on. And that has to be, like, you have to nail in on that, right? Yep. No, like, make routine plays consistently. That's the thing that Nebraska hasn't really been able to do, I don't think.
I think I might have already said this. I don't know. I'm getting lost in my own confusion at this point, but there's a part of this where you had talked a little bit about the Louisville-Miami game, and I had said elsewhere that I felt like tonight was going to be a really key moment for Nebraska to kind of accept that national spotlight. Yes, they played in that Arrowhead game, but it was almost like we criticized Bill Moose for this a little bit when he said, well, when you play these certain weekday games and you do it a little differently than what the rest of your conference would do, you get to have all the eyes on your program, right? You get to be the national spotlight. Nebraska was in the national spotlight tonight, and they had a chance, especially if you walked into this game and you said, hey, Friday night, Miami is going to lose to Louisville. And Nebraska has a chance to be the big game at the end of the night that maybe they get a marquee, not necessarily marquee victory over a conference opponent, but a win that everyone's kind of looking at. And I talked about it before, right? Where there's a scenario where they win this game, maybe handily, take care of business, and they look so much better than the opposing night contest that was across from them in a different conference in Louisville and Miami. Nebraska, top 25 team, they gain a little momentum. The program and the national esteem kind of continues to build up success, and everyone's talking about Nebraska. And even the good part that Rule talked about earlier this week about, hey, when you are winning and things are going the right way, your coach does get talked about being ahead for other jobs. Those things would have worked out. And instead, we're all going to have to suffer through Dave Portnoy and Kirk Herbstreit and all those other guys talking about Nebraska in a bad light once again tomorrow morning. And if you choose to suffer through that tomorrow, that's your own pain and punishment. I can't protect you from whatever you want to do for glutton for punishment if that's your choice. But I will say that the prime opportunity to just take control of the narrative was right there. And it's not only slipped through their fingers, but they crashed the car.
Man, I'm having a real hard time trying to be civil with the chat right now. Listen, I get everybody's frustrated. Like I said, I'm as mad as anybody. But I'm trying to understand how the same people that are telling me that the referees had no impact on this game are telling me that wearing all white uniforms is why they lost. Like, I'm having a real hard time with that, with that dichotomy here, because if what you're wearing has more impact than people who are actually officiating and governing the game, like, what the hell are we talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. And listen, Charles is making some decent points. He says Mike Riley had Nebraska at their highest ranking in recent history, and fans still weren't happy. Listen,
can't argue that.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I think that's true of some people, Charles. I think you're right. You're right. They were a top 10 team. I don't think anybody really felt like they were a top 10 team, but they were 7-0 or whatever it was in 2016. And there were some people that still weren't happy. I agree. Like, that's a totally fair point. I've talked about before because that I thought Mike Riley kind of got a raw deal in the way he was treated here at Nebraska. Like, we can go back and do this where, like, certain fans are never going to be happy about anything. I get it. Right. Neither one of those reasons, whether it's the uniforms, I saw somebody say something about the pink helmets, and somebody say something about the surrender whites and whatever else. None of that had anything to do with the fact that Nebraska couldn't tackle with their first defender. None of that had anything to do with the fact that, like Asian Wyatt said, they didn't stick with the run long enough, which I agree with. Yeah. None of that had anything to do with the fact that it seemed like they had no identity on offense. Like, none of that had anything to do with it. But the entire landscape of this, either everything matters or nothing does. Right? Either every single thing matters, where the white uniforms put them in a bad mindset, and the whatever, the pink ends put them in whatever. But then you have to say the officiating matters too. Yeah. And listen, if you want to say none of that matters, I'm cool. I'm cool if you want to say none of it matters. You say, hey, Nebraska has to play better. They got to execute. They have to be the more physical football team. I'm fine with that. I thought they got out physicaled, and I was super frustrated by that. Yep. Like, that's the thing where, if you're Nebraska, you should always be able to control that. Yep. You might get beat. You might get beat up. That's fine. You should never, at any point, get out physical. Yep. Like, that's a non-negotiable, and it should be. And as kind of to your point, too, Rule in his post-game press conference, one of the first things he said from Mitch Sherman, there's nothing that led me to think this was going to be like this. He also said Rule felt that the Huskers were on their heels most of the night. We never really put them under duress. Raiola, I'm very frustrated right now. It sucks. It sucks a lot. Raiola says he'll take the blame and all the hate. 6 points is pretty brutal. I'll take that one. If you're looking for any sort of positive, I guess that they're accepting the fact that none of them thought this would happen. Here's more negatives if you want to add on to a bad night, right? Let's just keep piling on to the pile on the top. Rocco Spindler was taken to the hospital with a hand injury. Vincent Shavers had surgery on his thumb on Tuesday, and he was unable to play because it was too painful. That's
And honestly, I did notice that Shavers was not out there because there was a couple of plays that were made by the defense. That I go, is that Vint? No, it's not. It's Javen Wright. And instead, did not notice that Rocco Spindler had left the game at any point. But again, not going to ever accommodate what the offensive line couldn't get done today because clearly at one point they had Rocco Spindler and clearly at one point they had Elijah Pritchett. But as the game continued on, they got worse and worse.
Sure.
And there was probably a lot of reasons for that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think there are a lot of legitimate reasons where you could look at and listen, if all of those things added up and Pritchett is gone and Spindler's gone and Shavers is gone and whatever else, right?
Yeah.
And that adds up to a loss for Nebraska. Listen, I said this earlier, there's versions of this where Nebraska loses the game and I don't feel like this.
Yeah.
Like I believe that to be true.
Any loss to Minnesota was going to be frustrating.
Yeah, I was not going to be happy.
This is almost like a pit of despair. They'll never recover. Like this feels like one of those losses where you can already pinpoint that this looks to more losses. That's how it feels, does it not? Like you look at this loss and you have no answers to it, and you just go, can they win out the rest of their season? Because you already talked about the Northwestern game.
Yeah, I have no idea what to expect now.
Yeah, if Northwestern goes out and wins, then both teams are 5-2 going to Lincoln. And then their next game would be at home against USC on November 1st. And USC, depending on what they do against Notre Dame, is probably going to be ranked going into that game, right? And they're a very talented team. They won at home. They'll travel well. They've always come to the middle of the country pretty well. And you keep looking down that line. I mean, you could be talking about the biggest mid-off in Big Ten history between Nebraska and Penn State on November 22nd. I mean, legitimately, you could be looking at maybe the most disappointing game from where the season was going to go to where it is now if that game continues. And that's how I feel right now because there are no answers. There's nothing to do. The only thing you can do, I guess, is go back to work and just promise that there's more effort coming into it. But it's almost like one of those efforts, and I can't remember the 45-7 Michigan loss in Rule's first year. They were completely outmanned, outgunned at every helm, and they were jumped on from the beginning and beaten up in a back alley, right? They were beaten up by the guy that was bigger, stronger, faster than them, and also had more money and the prettier girls. That was proven throughout the entirety of that game. But what did they do then? They returned back, had a short week, played Illinois, got a win. They practiced on Sunday. They beat the hell out of each other on Sunday, according to Rule from that week of press conferences. Whatever it takes to get back that mindset and mentality that they had before, I want to be shocked if we don't hear a peep from Rule this week. Legitimately. And I know there's been all this, as DB would say, hand-wringing consternation when it comes to his podcast and his walk and talks and all that stuff. I don't want to be the person that says, maybe it's time to do it. I don't care what he does. If the result gets you a win, whatever. I don't care what it looks like. I wouldn't be surprised if he just goes, you know what? I'm shutting it down because it's for the best interest of all of us that I be the leader of all of this, and we just got to be quiet. We're just going to move forward, and we're going to try to get a win on Saturday next week, 8 days from now. I
mean, I'm kind of the camp that if it wasn't the uniforms and it wasn't the officiating and it wasn't this and it wasn't that, it probably isn't podcasts either.
No,
right? So I mean, it is what it is. If that helps people from a perception standpoint, makes them feel better, fine, go for it. But the only thing that's going to make me feel better is if I see a completely different type of mentality come out against Northwestern. That's the only thing that'll make me feel better. Like there's nothing else. There is nothing else. Like this is, I've given this team the benefit of the doubt. I feel like they've mostly rewarded it this year in believing that they're going to take care of business against Michigan State and Maryland and Cincinnati. And honestly, like the Michigan game's frustrating, but again, it is what it is. This is like they're in full-on prove-it mode now.
Yeah.
Like they've...
Listen, not to give too much credit to old Sco-Fro, but if they 56-3 Northwestern, that's what this team needs.
I mean,
that's what they need.
I don't even... It's not even like a 56-3 thing. To like, just go out and be tougher. Be like physically dominate a team that you should be better than. Like that. Like I don't care what the number is. Just go out and look like you're better than Northwestern.
Yeah.
Like that's what it needs to be. Go out and... Like, I don't want to have to go back and watch the film and count how many times the offensive line gave Dillon at least 3 or 4 seconds. Just don't give up 9 sacks.
Yep.
I don't care if it's Dillon. I don't care if it's the receivers. I don't care if it's the O-line. I don't care who it is. Don't give up 9 sacks.
I like this from John. Go out and have an identity. Because, you can make a comment about, where was the run game in the red zone, or where was it at the beginning? I had talked about that from the beginning of this episode. I mean, that's what I was on.
Yeah.
There was no identity today. There was no, hey, we're going to be the team that's more physical. Hey, we're going to be the team that is going to out-scheme you. There was nothing proficient by Nebraska today. There was none of it today. And we've spun in circles on it, but it seriously is. It's one of the most confusing parts of this team as it is right now as we finish up that as you just continue to look at it, I mean, what did the team do well today? Nothing. Like there was nothing you can look at from any part of the game that looked good before this game to where it is now that you feel confident in moving forward.
Yeah,
no
I hope some of you had the pleasure of just being out at high school football tonight. Maybe you saw Waverly.
Yeah, listen, Norris and Waverly was the best game of the season, and I had to watch this instead.
Maybe you saw,
I'm mad.
Maybe you saw Waverly walk it off 45-42 against number 2 Norris. I hope you were there. I hope you were there and enjoyed it. I hope you
DVR'd this game and you just were like, hey, you know what? I like Hail Varsity Postgame. I'm just going to check out the vibe, see what happens. And I hope you listen. You go, oh no, honey, we're deleting that.
Just flush it.
We ain't watching it.
Just flush it. You know, I hope you got to watch something better than this tonight. I really do, because I'm jealous of the people that were at Waverly Norris. That looks like an incredible football game. I'm jealous of my Miller North brethren that got to watch a win over a very talented Central team. I'm jealous of everybody that got to enjoy good football tonight, because we certainly did not.
No, we didn't. There's nothing more to say. And I know like we could gripe and complain and everything and whatever. B&M, as the kids say, move their way on. We were trying to, we didn't cuss so far. We're an hour and 6 minutes in. So
not a hard one. Not like any of the big ones.
You did say diarrhea, which I was a little bit surprised by.
I said diarrhea. I think I said pissing me off, which I don't really consider that a swear word.
That's not too bad. It's on the DB calendar.
I think I might have thrown a hell and damn in there a couple times.
That's okay. You're a preacher.
Those are like, those are TV swear words. So I think you're okay. Yeah, those are like network television.
Yeah,
I think you're fine there.
If you can say it in a soap, you should be fine. I'll add this too. My wonderful Dr. Fiance and I, we were traveling from one of her resident dinners and coming back home, and has the game on my phone and is watching it, and she just goes, are they just not playing well? And I was like, well, you haven't watched this game, because at the time it was 7-6. They were coming out of halftime. And I said, yeah, it's frustrating, but there's still a second half to be played. Now, I wish I wouldn't have said that, because she's going to hold that over my head for the rest of the time. But at the time in that first half, I was thinking maybe just Nebraska just plays close games. Maybe this is just who they are. Maybe this is just the team that they have just become, where no matter what it is, they're just going to play close games. And I even partly considered in my head as I'm pulling into my driveway, man, being an Iowa fan must suck for more ways than one, right? Because they're always in these one-score games. They're playing it close, and sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, right? You have to feel this. It came to a very quick realization in that 9-minute third-quarter drive that this was not a game Nebraska was playing close. This was a game Nebraska was playing bad. And I think that's when the switch flipped, and I'm sure that's when your stomach dropped as well.
Yeah, I was texting with some people during that third-quarter drive, and I was sitting with my buddy.
People in chat just dropping the F-bomb now.
I had to turn the chat off for a second.
It's probably for the best.
Yeah, it was at some point after somebody called me the colored guy that I decided I probably had enough.
I mean, come on, chat. What are you talking about?
But no, I was talking to my buddy and I was texting with some people, and I go, yeah, they're going to eat the entire third quarter on this drive, aren't they? And that's exactly what they did. I think Nebraska got the ball with 2 minutes left in the third quarter, and they were down another touchdown, and it just did not feel like they were, even at that point with 17 minutes left in the game, it didn't feel like they were going to have enough time to score twice.
Yep.
Just the way that Minnesota had been controlling. I mean, Minnesota.
Would you be shocked to find out that Nebraska was only 3 minutes in time differential?
I would be stunned.
It's closer to 4. It was 31-59 to 28-01.
Yeah.
It felt like it was 50-10.
It felt like Minnesota always had the ball the entire game, and Nebraska never did.
Nebraska's average yards per play was 3.9. Minnesota's was 6.2. Nebraska had 54 total plays. Minnesota had 55. That's not how that game felt at all. It didn't
feel that way at all.
It felt like Minnesota literally had 105 plays.
Yeah, I felt like their offense was on the field constantly. It felt like Nebraska was going 3 and out every single drive, which obviously was not the case. But again, this is why rewatches are important, and this one's going to suck. I'm going to be honest. I'm not looking forward to diving into this one more than once. But
how about the 6 of 65 for penalties too?
Is that it?
didn't feel that way. I felt like there was 100 of them.
Felt like there was.
Well, and a couple of them were in critical moments.
I would say there
was a couple of defensive holdings and pass interferences that
in
did
like
not
really
go well.
in like really key spots.
There were
yeah.
2 of them were on third downs that gave extra possession.
One of them was on fourth.
Yeah, that's true.
One of them was on fourth.
Yep.
Like that was pretty brutal. And then you've got the Elijah Pritchett red zone personal foul.
So I mean, right
ejection.
there, that's 45 yards. Or that's 45 yards.
Yeah,
so,
that's most of it.
Yeah,
I mean that's most of it right there. So yeah, I mean we'll get back after it. I don't know what to expect from this team moving forward. I really don't. I wish maybe I had gotten to pay closer attention to the Mariners taking a 3-2 lead in the ALCS. Congrats to DB's Dodgers going sweep on the Brewers, making it back to the World Series. Those plucky underdog Dodgers. We love to see it.
At least they showed some effort today.
And how about Louisville knocking off Miami? That's something we can all rejoice, right?
You're gonna hate. I'll get this out of the way now, just because
Yeah.
Why not make you feel as bad as possible?
Sure.
Miller Moss had a really good game for a quarterback draft. So
yeah, and Carson Beck threw 4 picks. So
this is like so many. We're past double jeopardy. Like it's so much for you.
Carson Beck had 4 picks. Yeah, no, it's a good day.
I mean, we're watching Shark Tale right now, and it's just like there's all of these creatures in the ocean, and then there's all of these things that are in the ocean, and then there's us, the Nebraska fans.
Yeah, we're just
underneath whale poop.
Yeah, we're just sitting on the bottom of the food chain right now, which is a lot of fun. I'm enjoying that. Having a really good time here. So,
all right, well let's end this sympathy session, and we tried our best. I tweeted it out earlier. We're usually Hail Varsity positive post game. We did our best last week. I mean, we have the past 2 weeks. You and Rico did a great job with it with Michigan State. I thought we did for Maryland. There was nothing positive about that. And if you listened to this entire thing, or if you were in and out for 5 minutes and you thought that there was a moment that we were like, hey, you know what, Nebraska actually did something well, I challenge you to find that, clip it out, send it to me, because I'll give you all the praise possible. There's no way that there's anything that we have said or anything that we have done that likely Nebraska doesn't feel themselves. And I guess if you're looking for a positive from this in any regard, is that legitimately the team feels probably as bad as we all do. And they are probably agreeing with a lot of the stuff that we have to say. And the only direction they have to go is up, because this is the absolute bottom lowest that they are at this moment. But believe me, it can get worse.
I don't know
it can get worse.
I don't know what to do with that though. Like, I don't even know if I want them to feel as bad as we do. Cause I mean, I hope they feel inspired to do something about it. Because if they come out like this again, I'll be honest with you, you're gonna have a hard time fundraising.
Yeah.
Like
and you said they were off the chain Thursday.
Like this is a thing that discourages a fan base when you play like this. It's not just the losses, right? Like, I actually think Nebraska fans, if you play a certain way, I actually think Nebraska fans can deal with some of the losses.
No, it gets worse. Nate in chat took my son to this nightmare for first ever away game.
Oof. Yeah, that's
Nate, I'm so sorry, man.
Yeah, that's a tough look.
Oh,
that's a tough look.
That is brutal.
We don't love to see that. We don't love to see that. That
is legitimately the only way this could have been worse.
Yeah, I think there's a version of games where Nebraska plays a certain way where the fans can deal with, whether it's, I think a lot of it's toughness. I think a lot of it's physicality. I think a lot of it's competing. Nebraska fans, I think, are actually way more reasonable than sometimes our chat would indicate, and sometimes than we give them credit for. I think the common everyday Nebraska fan, if they play a certain way, they can deal with some losses.
Right.
Not a ton, right? Nobody wants to deal with a ton of losses, but I think there's a certain version of games Nebraska can play, and Nebraska fans will be like, hey, I'm proud of how we played.
Yep.
Win, lose, or draw, I'm proud of how we played. And that didn't happen today. It needs to happen next week.
Right. And I think there's a part of this too, is just because it's that bald-headed quarter zip tie wearing PJ Fleck, right?
Yeah,
because if Nebraska does this if Nebraska performs this way with Iowa, you will feel even worse. You will feel lower because it is one of those teams that Nebraska just hasn't gotten over the hump on. Earlier this week, I wrote that Minnesota was the third hardest game remaining. Iowa was the second. And if Nebraska plays like this performance against Iowa, it doesn't matter what they do in between these two. That is just a complete turd sandwich.
Yeah.
It's bad. And
Yeah.
it's not going to be a fun one to look back on. And even if the season ended in a 9-3 record, no one would remember it well.
Mhm.
It would not be good.
Yeah, nobody likes a turd sandwich.
Notably.
Famously, nobody likes a turd sandwich.
All right, Dane Coyote, let's wrap this up. 100% Ravi, we want to watch good football. We want to be proud. This felt embarrassing with everyone watching. If your opponent is just better than you, you say good game and you move on.
We just want to be proud of what we're watching.
Yep.
I wasn't very proud today.
I'm proud of your effort, though. Way to get it. Because I'll be honest, I had tweeted about like 10 minutes left in the game. I was like, Ravi is still not in the studio, and I am wondering if he is going to come in. And you walked in here, and you didn't say anything, and you kind of threw your keys down, and you grabbed the table, and it kind of like hit the wall. And I was like, oh, it's like when mom found the report card first, and then dad came home, and you were like, please don't tell dad about my report card. Like, that's how I felt. Because the Huskers were mom and you were just waiting to finally unload it. And I was like, I could get soap in the mouth at best. At worst, I could get, capital punishment. Like, I got to be very, very worried about what's coming. So that's what I was concerned about. But you did admirably. And hey, you didn't let any diarrhea of the mouth actually spill out. You did great.
No. We tried to be professional as much as possible, try to bring what we can to the table. But no, this is Dane Coyote said it well. You just want to feel proud of your team. And it was hard to feel proud today. So
yep.
That's all I got.
Yep, that's all we got.
That's all I got.
It's 11:30 at night. If you want to wallow in this sadness any longer, be our guest. But you can also listen to the podcast channels. Just search Hail Varsity Postgame. You can also watch the replays of this on YouTube. You can go into the live section, check it out there. Not the game that we had hoped for, but it is another game for Nebraska football. We will be back again next week, either at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill or back here at Hurrdat headquarters, because once again, we do not know when that game is kicking off yet with Northwestern. But once we get those details, check out all of our channels. Full Matt Rule post-game press conference, especially one you'll want to watch and listen to. Dylan Raiola's, other players, coordinators, coaches, and more. Find it on our Hail Varsity channels. That's Ravi Lulla. I'm Austin Jacobsen. Thank you to our producer, Rico, for staying up late. This has been Hail Varsity Postgame. We'll see you again next week.